Hello, and welcome to Nighttime Fables, a haven where stories come to life under the gentle hush of evening, guiding you toward a peaceful night's rest. Tonight, we bring you another calming tale, one crafted to ease your mind and invite a sense of tranquil calm. But first, let's take a few moments to prepare both body and mind for a restful sleep. Make yourself comfortable, and with each slow inhale and gentle exhale, feel the day's worries slowly melt away. It can be challenging to separate from the bustle of the day, especially as bedtime nears. Yet remember, the less we fret about falling asleep, the more our minds can let go of lingering tension. Let the gentle flow of your breathing soothe any concerns and allow tonight's story to guide you into a deep, restorative slumber. Now get cozy and let the soft glow of nighttime fables envelope you. Enjoy this story, and may it lead you into a serene and restful sleep. In days woven from simpler threads, Elspeth dwelled where fields met sky, cradled by the quiet constancy of her mother, Maeve, her father, Rowan, and a tumble of younger siblings. Their hands, calloused from coaxing life from the soil, held kindness as firmly as they held the tools. Even the smallest children lent their weight to the rhythm of farm and cottage life. Yet shadows of scarcity sometimes stretched long across the hearth. As the eldest, Elspeth shouldered burdens beyond her years, her quiet diligence a cornerstone of their home. Scant moments of stillness found her fingers dancing with fleece, coaxing rough wool into threads of necessity, yarn to clothe the many bodies huddled under their roof. Winter nights saw her silhouette flickering beside the great stone hearth, the purr of her small white cat a soft counterpoint to the whirring spindle. But when warmth unfurled across the land, she sought solace beneath the green murmur of leaves or by the chuckling voice of the brook. Sunshine dappled her work, butterflies wove aerial ballads, and birdsong provided a cheerful score as she hummed forgotten tunes, spinning until duty called again. No sigh escaped her lips, only patience flowed towards parent and sibling alike. A gentle current, even when weariness pooled deep within her. One incandescent summer afternoon found Elspeth perched upon the sun-baked lip of the old well near the cottage, the air thick with the drone of bees exploring the drowsy flower beds. Azure perfection stretched overhead. Her cat, a puddle of white fur, sprawled bonelessly in the grass nearby. Down the path, Flicker and Pip were architects of a pebble kingdom in the cottage doorway, their small concentration absolute. From within drifted the familiar kitchen symphony, Maeve orchestrating pots and pans for the evening meal. Elspeth's fingers flew, transforming fleece into fine yarn, a quiet song threading through the lazy warmth. She aimed to spin just a measure more before the livestock demanded her attention. Glancing up, she saw Master Thorn from the neighboring farmstead ambling past on the lane, his dog trotting faithfully at his heels. He lifted a hand in rustic greeting. Smiling, Elspeth let the spindle rest momentarily in her lap, raising her own hand in return. A fatal nudge. The spindle, smooth and weighted, skittered sideways, tipped, and plunged into the dark maw of the well. A gasp, a lunge, too slow. Hope, thin as spider silk, had her leaning precariously, eyes straining against the subterranean gloom, praying it had snagged on a protruding stone. Just a fraction further, and equilibrium abandoned her. Down she tumbled, headlong into the earth's cool throat. The descent was less a fall, more an unspooling into strangeness. Fear held no purchase here. She drifted, buoyant, through an immense void where stone and soil dissolved into pure expanse. Time itself seemed suspended, a held breath. Darkness enveloped her, profound yet not absolute, for below her feet, pinpricks of light began to bloom like distant frost crystals. They multiplied, intensified, until she felt herself plummeting feet first towards an inverted cosmos, a breathtaking ocean of stars. Instinctively, she reached down, fingers yearning to brush starlight, and the universe flipped. Stars blazed overhead now. A roaring surged in her ears, the thunder of unseen rivers, accompanied by a current of air, cool and swift against her skin. A profound drowsiness curtained her eyes. Then, oblivion. Consciousness returned softly, like dawn. She lay nestled in a meadow painted with wildflowers, staring up at a sky of flawless, unblemished blue. Sitting up, she scanned the horizon. No well yawned above or below. It was as if she'd been dreamt into existence here. A tentative check of limbs, a touch to her head. All sound, remarkably whole, suffused with the deep peace of restorative slumber. She rose. Verdant grasses swayed, stretching towards encircling woodlands. And there, solitary in the meadow's heart, stood a small house, a tendril of smoke curling lazily from its chimney. No soul stirred. No beast grazed. A profound curiosity began to bloom within her. One truth remained stark. Lingering in this blossoming field was no solution. The small house represented the sole prospect of aid. Towards it, she walked, her path parting the tall grasses, where delicate butterflies performed their silent, sunlit dances. Reaching the dwelling, she found the front door standing ajar. Unwilling to trespass, she circled the exterior cautiously. Emptiness answered her gaze. Returning to the threshold, she peered into the dim interior and called out, "Hello? Is anyone within?" Silence was her only reply. As her vision adapted to the gloom, she discerned a large oven radiating warmth from a banked fire. A table nearby lay strewn with fallen petals, and in a corner stood barrels hinting at stored provisions. The place felt like a baker's haven, momentarily abandoned. While Elspeth debated her next move, a peculiar chorus reached her ears, tiny melodic voices seemingly emanating from the oven's vicinity. Dismissing it as fancy, a trick of her disoriented mind, she edged closer, head tilted. Clearer now, the sound resolved into words. "Greetings, pray release us. Our baking is done, ready for the feasting." She recoiled. Surely the fall had addled her senses. Bread conversing from an oven. Yet the sweet, urgent piping came again. "Greetings, release us from the oven. We are baked to perfection for the feast." A quandary indeed. To intrude upon a stranger's hearth, meddling with their baking? Yet the baker, whoever they were, would surely lament burnt offerings. Practicality ultimately swayed her apprehension. Locating a long wooden paddle, leaning beside the hearth, she eased open the heavy oven door. Inside, a row of beautiful loaves sat, golden brown, and perfectly risen. With careful movements, she slid the paddle beneath them. transferring each loaf to the table to cool. The oven door secured, the paddle returned to its place. She surveyed her handiwork with quiet satisfaction, hands on her hips. Time to press on. Hopefully, the returning baker would appreciate the intervention that saved their bread, especially if a feast was truly imminent. A less scrupulous soul might have claimed a loaf as fair compensation, but Elspeth, governed by ingrained honesty, left the bounty untouched. With a measure of reluctance, for the cottage now swam in the glorious perfume of fresh baking, she stepped back out into the meadow. No help was forthcoming here. Onward she must go. From the cottage door, a faint track pressed into the earth by frequent passage led towards the beckoning trees. Following this path seemed the most logical course, so she turned her steps towards the woods. It was a welcoming forest, not dense or forbidding. Sunlight filtered through the gently rustling canopy, pooling in bright patches on the mossy floor. Squirrels performed arboreal acrobatics high above, and birdsong embroidered the air with cheerful notes. The path meandered agreeably, winding across miniature streams bridged by fallen logs and skirting lichen-painted tree trunks. Elspeth walked, wondering at her destination, yet her heart remained surprisingly light. She found herself humming softly, enjoying the sylvan tranquility. After some time, the path opened into a sun-dappled grove dense with apple trees. Weariness began to settle in her limbs, so she sank onto the soft grass beneath one of the trees to rest. Leaning her head against the rough bark, she closed her eyes, letting the forest's subtle symphony wash over her. The avian chatter, the insectile hum, the scurry of unseen creatures in the leaves. Sleep hovered close, a gentle tide pulling her under. But just as she surrendered, new voices intruded. Eyes snapping open, she listened intently. The sound coalesced into words, seeming to rustle from the leaves themselves. Attend, we are burdened. Shake our boughs, let the ripe fruit fall for the gathering. Having already encountered talking bread, Elspeth found herself more receptive to this second marvel in a day overflowing with strangeness. With no pressing schedule, she rose and readily obliged the orchard's plea. Methodically, she moved from tree to tree, grasping the lower branches and shaking vigorously until cascades of red and gold apples tumbled to the ground. But Elspeth's nature abhorred disorder. Gathering the fallen fruit into the cradle of her skirt, she carefully arranged neat piles at the base of each tree, taking pains not to bruise a single one. Feeling her task in the grove complete, she turned and resumed her journey along the winding path. Naturally, she took no apples for herself. This harvest belonged to another. Leaving the apple grove behind, a deeper fatigue began to claim her. She couldn't gauge how long she'd walked, but the slant of light through the trees and her own lengthening shadow spoke of the afternoon waning swiftly towards evening. A knot of worry tightened within her. Where was this path leading? Would she find shelter before nightfall? Just as anxiety began to prickle, The trail emerged from the trees. Before her lay a wide clearing, bisected by a river that flowed with languid grace. In the distance, hazy mountains rose against the horizon. The beauty of the scene stole her breath. Down by the riverbank nestled a small, impeccably tidy cottage, enclosed by a crisp white picket fence. Flourishing garden beds flanked it, and nearby, goats and sheep grazed peacefully. A snowy white eiderdown, plump and inviting, aired on a long clothesline. From the stone chimney, a delicate plume of smoke ascended into the pink and gold tapestry of the evening sky. Summoning her courage, Elspeth walked towards this welcoming sight. Hope flickered. Perhaps a bite to eat, a place near the fire to rest her weary bones. She reached the gate, unlatched it carefully, stepped through, and secured it behind her. A path of smooth grey stones guided her between vibrant flower beds towards the cottage's arched front door, painted a cheerful cherry red. Pausing for only a heartbeat, she knocked upon the wood. Silence. Then, startlingly, a small square panel slid open near eye level. Elspeth stooped slightly, meeting an intense, assessing gaze within the shadowed aperture. "What is it you seek?" The voice was aged, cautious, like dry leaves rustling. "Please," Elspeth began, her voice hesitant. "My name is Elspeth. I find myself adrift, lost. Might you spare a morsel of food and perhaps a corner by your fire for the night?" The unseen eye regarded her for a long, measuring moment. Then the peephole snapped shut, bolts scraped, and the door swung inward. There stood an old woman, her face a map of wrinkles yet kindly. She wore sturdy, homespun garments beneath a practical apron, her abundant white hair secured in a no-nonsense bun at her nape. Narrowing her eyes, she retrieved a pair of delicate wire-rimmed spectacles from her apron pocket and perched them on her nose, peering at Elspeth anew. A slow smile spread across her features, warm as banked embers. "Well now, child," she declared, her tone softening. "Visitors are rare as hen's teeth hereabouts. Lend an old woman a hand with her tasks, and you're welcome to share what little hearth and home I possess." A wave of relief washed over Elspeth. "Oh, gladly," she breathed. "I'm well acquainted with chores and deeply grateful for your kindness." "Sensible girl," the woman nodded. Come in, come in. Dusk gathers fast, food and rest first. Work can wait for the dawn light. There's always plenty." She paused, tapping a finger against her chin. "You may call me Mistress Hellebore. A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Elspeth." The woman stepped back, gesturing Elspeth inside. Ducking slightly, for the cottage ceiling was low, Elspeth entered and closed the door. The interior comprised a single large room, cozy, and filled with the scent of wood smoke and something savory. To her left stood a simple table with 2 chairs. Nearby, a short counter held essential kitchenware. Across the room, a bed waited, presumably the resting place for the eiderdown she'd seen outside. Two rocking chairs faced the large stone fireplace. A sewing basket nestled between them. Over the crackling flames hung a steaming pot, emitting an aroma that Elspeth thought might be the most delicious thing she had ever smelled. The long walk had sharpened her hunger keenly. She didn't wait long. Mistress Hellebore settled her near the fire and ladled a generous bowl of hearty stew. They ate in companionable silence as twilight deepened outside the small windows, the flickering firelight dancing on their faces. After the meal, Mistress Hellebore requested, "Would you fetch the eider down from the line now, dear? No need to shake it tonight. I saw to that this morning." Elspeth ventured into the fragrant darkness of the garden, retrieved the surprisingly light quilt, and brought it inside, laying it carefully upon the bed. Afterward, she helped Mistress Hellebore clear the table and tidy the small kitchen space. Without probing questions about Elspeth's origins or destination, the kind old woman retrieved a blanket and pillow from a carved wooden chest and prepared a soft pallet for the tired girl near the hearth. "Sleep now," Mistress Hellebore said warmly. "Tomorrow brings its own work." The small flames leaped and whispered in the hearth, hypnotic and comforting. Elspeth sank onto the makeshift bed with profound gratitude. The distant hoot of an owl, the occasional bleat of a goat from the yard. These sounds wove themselves into the fabric of the night. Within moments, she was lost in a deep, dreamless slumber. Elspeth awoke with the first blush of dawn, feeling more rested than she could recall ever being. Following a simple breakfast, she eagerly awaited Mistress Hellebore's instructions. Many tasks were comfortingly familiar, echoes of her life on the farm. Tending the goats and sheep, feeding the clucking hens, washing dishes, sweeping the flagstone floor. Mistress Hellebore seemed genuinely pleased by the capable assistants, admitting her own aging bones sometimes struggled to keep pace with the demands of homestead and garden. Under Elspeth's efficient hand, the cottage soon gleamed with tidiness. One chore, however, came with very specific instructions. Each morning, Elspeth, Mistress Hellebore stated, her gaze serious, "You must take the eider down from my bed, carry it outside, and shake it. Shake it with vigor, mind you, until the tiny feathers drift free like summer pollen. Shake it until it feels light and airy once more. This is of great importance. Can you manage that?" Elspeth nodded solemnly, accepting the duty without question. And so each day she wrestled the voluminous quilt into the yard, shaking and fluffing until a miniature snowstorm of downy feathers swirled around her, some catching the breeze and sailing skyward, others settling gently on the grass. Then she would carefully hang the pristine white eiderdown back on the clothesline to bask in the day's air until evening fell. Elspeth didn't depart after that first day. Where would she go? Besides, a quiet contentment had settled over her. Helping Mistress Hellebore felt right, purposeful. The old woman, in turn, clearly cherished the company and the relief Elspeth's youthful energy provided. Day flowed seamlessly into day. establishing a peaceful, companionable rhythm between them. Several weeks into Elspeth's stay, Mistress Hellebore introduced a new responsibility. "I have another vital task for you, child. Take my watering can," she said, pointing to a large, long-spouted vessel in the corner, "and tend to my garden plot. Be thorough. Miss no corner. Let the water shower down, wake the seeds, and nurture a fine crop." Elspeth embraced this duty with the same quiet diligence. She hauled the heavy can back and forth countless times, ensuring a drenching spray reached every inch of cultivated earth. Daily she performed this ritual, and soon the garden responded with vibrant life. In one section, tulips, irises, and daffodils unfurled in jewel tones. Another yielded crisp lettuces, sharp green onions, sturdy cabbages, and peppery radishes. Mistress Hellebore possessed a remarkable gift for growth. Elspeth's watering seemed merely the catalyst for inevitable flourishing. Time, measured by the cycles of chores and the changing garden, slipped by unnoticed. Elspeth found a measure of happiness in this strange, quiet world. Yet, after many months had passed, a subtle shift occurred. She grew pensive, her usual quietness deepening into withdrawal. Evenings by the fire found her staring into the flames, her mending forgotten in her lap. Mistress Hellebore, observant as ever, finally broached the subject gently. "Something weighs upon your spirit, child. Tell old Hellebore what troubles you." "Oh, Mistress Hellebore," Elspeth sighed, looking up, "you have shown me such kindness, and I truly value my time here, helping you. But, truth be told, a great longing for my family has taken root in my heart. I miss them terribly, and I see no path back to them. Homesickness gnaws at me, and I find myself constantly wishing I could somehow ascend the well where my spindle fell." Mistress Hellebore listened, her gaze deep and knowing. Then, reaching into the mending basket beside her chair, she drew forth something smooth and familiar. The spindle. Elspeth's breath caught. "My spindle! But how?" Mistress Hellebore's eyes, green as moss agate behind her spectacles, held a gentle amusement. "It landed amongst my cabbages, dear one. This place and yours, they touch. Little happens in this realm that escapes my notice." Hope surged in Elspeth, quick and bright. "Then you know the way? The path back? Can you guide me home?" The old woman leaned back in her rocker, folding her weathered hands in her lap, her smile gentle. "You have been a blessing, Elspeth, diligent and true. I shall miss your presence. But yes, it is time. Your heart yearns for its own hearth. Rest deeply tonight. Dawn will see you on your journey." Elspeth felt such a surge of joy, she doubted sleep would come. But she underestimated the cottage's soothing magic. Happily tucking the recovered spindle into her pocket, she settled onto her familiar pallet by the fire. Once again, the crackling flames and the soft night sounds outside lulled her swiftly into profound, restorative peace. When the sun painted the eastern sky, Elspeth rose, folded her bedding neatly, and placed it in the wooden chest. Then She took Mistress Helibor's eiderdown outside for its final, vigorous shaking, hanging it carefully on the line. "Thank you, my dear," the old woman said, emerging from the cottage carrying a sturdy woven basket. "This is for you." Lifting the cloth covering, Elspeth saw it was laden with beautiful ripe apples and loaves of bread still radiating warmth. Mistress Helibor continued softly, "During your time here, your help has been immeasurable. You came upon my baking when the oven cried out, and you saved the loaves. You lightened the burden of the orchard when the branches groaned heavy with fruit. Day after day, you shook my eiderdown, sending its whispers into the air, and you faithfully showered my garden, coaxing life from the sleeping seeds." Humbled by the praise, Elspeth shook her head slightly. "They were but simple tasks, Mistress Helibor. Anyone could have done them." The old woman smiled, a knowing, ancient light in her eyes. "Simple, perhaps. Yet those simple tasks weave the very fabric of the seasons, child. Tending the oven's fire brings the warmth of summer days to your world. Shaking the apples loose summons the crisp breath of autumn. Each feather you send flying from my eiderdown becomes a snowflake drifting upon the winter wind. And the water you poured so diligently awakens the earth for spring's return." She gestured towards the basket Elspeth now held. "This will never empty. It is the echo of your quiet service, a reward for the bread you did not take, the apples you left untouched. Your family will share in the bounty you earned here." Tears pricked Elspeth's eyes. The magnitude of the gift, sustenance and comfort for her family for years to come, overwhelmed her. She embraced the old woman, gratitude swelling within her. "Thank you," she whispered. Then, remembering her purpose, she asked, "But the way? How do I find it?" Mistress Helibor turned, indicating the murmuring river. "As you came, so shall you return. Follow their water's course upstream. Hours will pass, but eventually you will find a great stone bridge spanning the flow. Set foot across it, and the threshold to your own world will be beneath your feet." A pang of sorrow struck Elspeth. Can I ever come back to see you?" Mistress Helibor shook her head gently, her expression tender. "No, dear one. Your passage here was a thread pulled by chance, not easily repeated. But listen closely. Whenever the sun warms your face like fresh bread, whenever you see an apple tumble in the turning leaves, whenever a snowflake kisses your cheek, or the soft rain greens your own garden plot, know that I am near. Remember." With a final embrace, Elspeth passed through the little white gate, turning to wave as she made her way down to the riverbank. She began walking upstream, following the water's edge. Looking back after a short while, Mistress Helibor's cottage seemed to shimmer and fade, dissolving into the landscape as if it had only ever been a dream. Elspeth walked on, the river her guide, its path marked by foaming rapids and sparkling cascades over smooth, dark stones. When the sun reached its zenith, she rested beneath a sheltering tree breaking off a piece of the warm bread and biting into a crisp, impossibly juicy apple from her miraculous basket. They tasted of sunshine and diligence. She continued her journey as the afternoon shadows lengthened, and finally, in the distance, she saw it, a magnificent stone bridge, ancient and graceful, arching high over the river. Recognizing her destination, she pushed through the tall reeds at the water's edge and stepped onto the worn stones, half expecting a jolt, a shift. Nothing happened. She walked steadily towards the center. Reaching the midpoint, she paused, setting down her basket. She looked back, down the river's course. Mistress Helibor's realm stretched out, breathtaking, the winding water vanishing towards the horizon, the woods a dark green mantle to one side, the hazy mountains rising on the other. Below, the river flowed deep and silent. Taking one last look at the vast, cloudless sky, Elspeth retrieved her basket and walked towards the far end of the bridge. Reaching the edge, she held her breath. One foot touched the earth beyond the bridge. Still nothing. Nerves fluttered, a fear that the magic might fail. Closing her eyes tightly, gripping the basket handle, she took the final step. A rushing sound filled her ears, the roar of a great river, and that familiar cool current of air washed over her. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the familiar yard of her own home. A chorus of joyous cries erupted. Her family surged towards her, months having spun away in her absence in their world too. Arms enveloped her. Questions tumbled out, relief and love washing over her in a warm tide. Elspeth, heart full, was home. That evening, by the familiar stone hearth, she recounted the marvels of Mistress Helibor's realm to her wide-eyed siblings. Afterward, they shared a feast, courtesy of the basket whose bread and apples, astonishingly, showed no sign of diminishing. Elspeth resumed her place in the rhythm of the farm, her hands finding familiar chores. But now she performed them with a gladness born of understanding, having witnessed firsthand how honest work truly turned the world. And from that day forward, whenever the rain drummed softly on the roof, or when she sat spinning by the window, watching feathery snowflakes drift silently earthward, Elspeth knew that somewhere Mistress Helibor was busy, her eiderdown being fluffed and aired, weaving the seasons just as it should be. Here, cocooned in the quietude of your bed, tonight's passage commences. Perhaps the day was steeped in the study of Italian Renaissance artistry, your thoughts lingering on the Florentine masters. One particular masterwork, Maestro Alessandro's Primavera, held your imagination captive. This transcendent tempera on wood vision, realized between the twilight of the 1470s and the dawn of the 1480s, possesses considerable scale, fully 2 meters tall by 3 wide. Alessandro di Mariano Filippi, revered as Maestro Alessandro, stood among Florence's most lauded talents during the Renaissance zenith. Following a papal summons to adorn Rome's Sistine Chapel, his focus shifted towards the realm of myth. Centuries hence, these creations, including the ethereal birth of Venus and this very Primavera, define his enduring legacy. Primavera, especially, resonates with its intricate tapestry of symbols drawn from nature's lexicon and ancient verse. This verdant allegory of spring permeates your consciousness as eyelids grow heavy, sleep's threshold nearing. In that drifting space where wakefulness dissolves, the contours of reality soften. Before you, Primavera materializes suspended against an ornately embellished wall enshrined in a gilded wooden frame. It hangs alone, commanding the chamber. You drift closer, drawn towards its life-sized figures. Proximity intensifies the pull, your gaze inevitably finding Athelred, the goddess reigning at the composition's core. Athelred, Roman deity of love, beauty, fecundity, and fortune. Though 8 other beings share her painted world, she occupies a distinct, unobstructed plane. Her tresses cascade like molten gold. A regal blue gown and a deep crimson drape clothe her statuesque form, beauty incarnate. You behold her, and impossibly, she seems to return your stare. Her right hand lifts an invitation etched in pigment. A flicker of motion. Did you imagine it? No. Again it comes, accompanied this time by a conspiratorial wink. Another step you take, closer still, and the boundary dissolves. Colors deepen, textures gain dimension. The scene breathes before you. Ethelred extends her painted hand, bridging the divide between canvas and consciousness, drawing you into the very soul of the scene. You find yourself translated into an Elysian meadow, awash in the hues of countless blossoms. Hundreds of distinct flower types push through the emerald grass. Pinks, reds, yellows, whites, some familiar, others exotic wonders punctuate the foreground with vibrant life. An intoxicating perfume drifts on the air, rose and jasmine mingling with lavender, violet, and lily. A symphony of spring's exhalations. The sun's warmth is a gentle balm. The sky, an impeccable, cloudless azure. Surely, if perfection possesses a season, it is embodied here. For a moment you close your eyes, letting the sheer beauty saturate your being. A slow, deep inhalation draws in the tranquility. A full exhalation releases tension. Opening your eyes, the tableau before you resolves into familiar forms, figures whose narrative resonates within you. This spectacle, you recall, was brought into being by the illustrious Valerius dynasty, likely a nuptial gift for young Lucian upon his wedding day. The Valerius family, formidable bankers and a political force, steered Florence's destiny through the 15th century. Primavera later graced the couple's bedchamber, a silent benediction above their repose. It stands as an allegory, a visual poem celebrating spring's resurgence, the sanctity of marriage, fertility's promise, and life's perpetual transformation. Here, immersed within its bounds, the story feels innate, understood without conscious deciphering. You remember Maestro Alessandro, his deft portraiture securing the patronage of the powerful Valerius clan, a master of mythological currents, inspired equally by classical literature, ancient sculpture, and the Renaissance pursuit of the ideal human form. Whispers endured of a local beauty whose sweeping golden curls and elegant curves supposedly inspired every female visage within this frame. You observe the graceful feminine presences surrounding you, how they instill a sense of fluid music throughout the composition. Save for Ethelred's steadfast outward gaze, all other figures exist in states of motion, a testament to Maestro Alessandro's extraordinary ability to capture the human form in diverse attitudes. While the foreground bursts with illuminated life, the backdrop recedes into cooler shadows. Beyond the figures lies a grove heavy with oranges, an emblem of the Valerius family, interspersed with laurel, whose name echoes Lucian's in the Italian tongue, signifying triumph, and myrtle, alongside other verdure. The specific symbolism woven into the flora is intricate. Botanists, it is said, have catalogued over 500 distinct plant species captured within this single panel. Drifting toward the orange grove, a cool zephyr greets you, bearing the sweet tang of citrus. As the air stirs, your gaze lifts to the far right, witnessing Corin's descent. Corin, the Hellenic god of the west wind, harbinger of spring, emerges from the arboreal depths to claim the nymph Elera as his bride. She, ethereal in a gossamer gown, a flowering vine unfurling from her lips. In his embrace, a metamorphosis. Elara becomes Lysandra, Roman goddess of blossoms, the very essence of spring. Lysandra stands radiant between Elara and Ethelred, clad in flowing robes embroidered with flora. Her lap brimming with roses, she scatters upon the verdant floor. Each petal drifts, a gentle benediction upon the earth. This floral offering speaks of springtime and nascent life. A coronet and necklace of flowers adorn her. Her sleeves shimmer as if woven from dragonfly wings. Golden scales sheathe her forearms, meeting the silken fabric at the elbow with decorative plumes. The artistry lavished upon Lysandra's attire leaves you breathless. Now, you perceive the first three figures on the right as a narrative unit. Together, they embody the genesis of spring. Another deep breath inhaled, fully exhaled. You contemplate early spring symbolism, the burgeoning flowers, the figure's transformation, a profound depiction of becoming, of growth. Witnessing it intimately reveals the painting's rich, complex network of symbols and allegories. The Renaissance, a fertile season where painting, philosophy, and verse commingled, seeking classical echoes and inherent beauty, prioritizing the human narrative over the purely divine. The Valerius dynasty were known patrons of works exploring pagan themes, a departure from purely religious commissions. This inclination finds its focus in the painting's central figure, Ethelred. Ethelred commands the composition's heart, positioned slightly above and behind the others, her gaze locking with the observers. Behind her, the trees part, suggesting a natural halo, an arboreal apse, a framing typically reserved in devotional art for the Madonna, who, like Ethelred here, often wore red and blue. This interplay of pagan and Christian iconography is a hallmark of the era. Here, Ethelred signifies love, beauty, and the sanctity of marriage, where Lysandra represents nascent affection and early spring. Ethelred embodies mature love, motherhood, the season's full bloom. Hovering above is her son Eros, a cherubic archer, winged and blindfolded, a nod to desire's capricious nature, his arrow aimed true at purity among the charities dancing nearby. The blindfold whispers the ancient adage, love perceives not with the eyes. Just left of Ethelred and Eros whirl the three charities, splendor, purity, and joy. Clad in diaphanous gowns that reveal their elegant limbs, their fingers link at 3 points as they trace a circle, evoking continuity, rhythm, harmonious grace. A testament to Maestro Alessandro's artistry, depicting the sisters from 3 distinct perspectives, achieving sculptural depth with ethereal fluidity. The charities were a beloved motif from contemporary literature. Viewers would have recognized their tale. From right to left, Splendor, the most ornamented, crowned with pearls of purity, an intricate golden pendant at her throat, glances back toward Corin. Purity in the center gazes toward Kalen, devoid of jewels. Joy completes the trio on the left. Together, they personify classical feminine virtues, the evolving facets of love. Gazing upon them evokes a sense of profound harmony, a visual music. It fascinates you how three distinct forms coalesce into a single symbolic entity. Primavera, as a whole, feels like a meditation on the diverse representations of beauty and femininity. So much unfolds within this single scene, yet beauty and vitality remain the luminous, overarching themes. At the composition's far left stands Kalen. His posture recalls Michelangelo's famed David. Winged sandals grace his feet. He wears a crimson mantle, a helmet, and carries a sword. With his right arm, he reaches skyward, perhaps gesturing with a caduceus, dispersing nascent clouds, safeguarding this eternal spring. His gaze is heavenward, detached from the others. In Roman law, Kalen served as divine messenger, presiding also over medicine, commerce, prosperity. Here, he is thought to symbolize the young Lucian, perhaps even modeled upon him. It's also suggested Lysandra represents Lucian's intended bride. Collectively, the charities and Kalen signify the culmination of spring. After absorbing each figure, each layer of meaning, you take a step back, allowing your eyes to close again. Awe washes over you. The sheer beauty, the singular privilege of stepping within this celebrated canvas and seeing it pulse with life. The perfume of rose, lily, and myriad blossoms delights the senses. A gentle susurrus of air kisses your skin as Lysandra scatters fresh petals at your feet. Delicate pink rose petals blanket the earth. Kalen ensures the sun's uninterrupted caress. You see the three charities twirling in resonant harmony, their light steps barely disturbing the petal-strewn ground, silken gowns and golden curls catching the breeze. Eros hovers, arrow nocked, while purity dances on, blissfully unaware. The blended scent of orange blossom, fresh grass, sweet flowers, and pungent laurel surrounds you. It is utterly dreamlike, surpassingly beautiful. Your eyes meet Aethelred's once more. You offer silent thanks for her welcome into this vibrant realm. A profound appreciation settles within you for the messages conveyed through this masterfully composed narrative. The intricate weaving of symbols drawn from law, philosophy, and classical texts. The exploration of beauty in its manifold forms. Love's transformative power. Subtle nods to the commissioning dynasty. The vibrant palette. The masterfully orchestrated space. You perceive the profound metamorphoses. Winter yielding to spring, maiden to bride to mother. The divine feminine echoing across pagan and Christian motifs. Literature rendered visual. The transformations throughout pulse with spring's irrepressible energy. New life, boundless potential, inevitable growth, transfiguration, and pervasive beauty. This is the season of rebirth, longed for through winter's dark vigil, finally manifest in all its glory. Such depth resides within this single painting. Small wonder it is hailed as a crowning achievement of the entire Renaissance. You settle for a moment, contemplating all this, allowing it to integrate into mind and heart. You wish this idyllic spring day, this dance of beauty and love, could endure indefinitely. Ethelred catches your eye once more, a silent promise conveyed. You're welcome here, always. This sanctuary exists within your mind's recall. With gratitude, you choose to linger just a little longer. Finding a pleasant spot, you recline upon the meadow, enveloped by the fragrance of living flowers. The grass yields softly beneath you. The sun imparts a gentle warmth. Your body surrenders to the earth's embrace. Relaxing deeper with each breath, Lysandra drifts near, strewing a final handful of rose petals around your resting form. Your body lets go, tension dissolving. Safe, cherished, inspired. It is time for slumber's rejuvenation here in this most sublime, celestial garden of spring. The visions coalescing in your mind are serene as you drift towards sleep. Rest well.